I'm talking today to Eric Musyoka from Decimal Media, a sound studio in Kenya. Eric, tell me, what's the structure of the music industry here in Kenya?
The structure of the music industry, it depends on which category of artists you're looking at. There's the River Road artists, then they are the urban contemporary artists.
Yeah.
So they tend to have two different approaches and structures of how they operate their music. One is very mass-oriented, mass-based, and the other one is more of what I'd call the modern, the newer sound of the Kenyan artists.
More hip-hop?
Yeah, more hip-hop, more Western influenced, yeah.
And how many record labels are there?
Currently, to my knowledge, the ones that I've dealt with, around 15, the ones that I'm aware of. There may be many more or fewer, but the ones I personally know and have interacted with are about 15.
And what types of music are there in the market?
We have hip-hop. There's a lot of hip-hop. Then there is what we call benga, which is the more traditional Kenyan sound. Then there is what we call...
Benga is a mixture of sort of Luo and Congolese music.
Yes, Luo and Congolese style of music. Then, but not only Luo. Maybe I would say the Western, it originated from the Western side of Kenya, but has also crept into the central side, the Kikuyus, the Kambas. They do a lot of benga style of music. Yeah, then we have Kapuka, which is an offshoot of dancehall music. Then we have Genge, which is an offshoot of more hip-hop, street grimy music. Yeah, Genge, which means mass. It's mass music. It doesn't have the traditional boop bap hip hop type of beats.
Yeah.
It takes any form, but it's the delivery and the artistic expression of the musician, that category, that makes it be defined as Genge.
And you've got a band like Just a Band.
Yeah.
You went to school with the guys.
Yes.
Why are they so different, and how are they? Why they are?
The reason I'd say Just a Band is different is they didn't take the traditional approach of music. They opted for a more experimental type of sound, especially because of their exposure to the internet. Because they came up, yeah, they're techies. They're more techies, and I assume they wanted to do something that's quite different. Because I've dealt with them, I've recorded some of their songs. I did the Hahe song, which gave rise to the Macmende video. They tend to be, how do I call it? They're internet kind of, they're in the blog sphere type of mentality, you know, abstract. You know.
And were they musical when you went to school with them?
Apparently, no. None of them was doing anything musical.
Yeah.
But I was shocked when when they brought for me their very first song. I mean, nobody really understand what they wanted to do, but that was just around the time Kenya was getting into the internet age. You had started getting people having access to Facebook, YouTube. That's the time they started doing their thing, because they released their first videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
There's no TV, no television station was going to play their content because it was out of the norm. I mean, you play this Genge, Kapuka, hip hop, then you slot in Just a Band sound. People would be quite confused by that. But with the internet usage growing, and the more people having access to internet, and the bandwidth increasing, they gained popularity through that.
And how do you get famous as an artist? How does anybody? There's no charts here, so how does anybody know that an artist is very popular?
I mean, for me personally, I think Kenya is the easiest market to become famous, because the competition is not enormous. I mean, it's not cutthroat like industries like in the Europe or in the US. As long as you have a good product, you have a little bit of savings, I mean capital to finance your career, it's very easy to become big. As long as you do quality production, but you tend to find that yes, you may have all this, but your content has to resonate with the people.
Yeah.
And also you have to endear the listeners to you, because the Kenyan industry, being quite small, is very personal. So it's not like our artists are not an enigma like, you know, Lady Gaga, you know, Justin Bieber. Nobody will faint when they meet you.
Yes, everybody knows you.
Typically, the 6-degree rule applies a lot. Yeah, you tend to find that you're very connected. But there are more avenues now to expose yourself than before, because before you were only restricted to the radio stations, and the radio stations had a very stringent way of accepting local music. You'd have, like, I remember when I got into the industry, I could only be played on the national television on a show called Mizizi, and in the afternoon segment in a show on one of the earliest Metro FM stations, Metro FM, and then there was Capital FM, which could only play my music at night at a segment called Hits Not Homework. So there were very specific slots where local music could be.
And then the media was liberalized.
Then the media was liberalized. More FM stations came into the market. Some stations solely focusing on local music. But you still find that the traditional stations still have their slots. But now you find that you could listen, and also the dynamics of the music has changed. We have a lot of more people doing more variety. There's a lot of rock, a lot of R&B. So you find that even those slots that were strictly for American music, you'd find Kenyan songs that have that kind of vibe playing in that slot. So you don't have to wait for those time frames where local music is played alone.